glad you're here. If you're a guest, I'll pray you just make yourself welcome. Feel free to worship. And I'm going to ask that you stand as we open the prayer. Jesus, we just thank you for another day in your house, Lord. And I pray, Lord Jesus, that all of us are all fallen short of your glory, Lord. But because of you, Lord, we can spend time with you, Lord. You have forgiven us of our sins, Lord. And you made a home in heaven for us, Lord. And I pray we recognize that home today, Lord. And I pray, Lord, that when the troubles of this world tie us down, Lord, that they won't be here forever, Lord.
for being here this morning. I'm going to ask at this time if the ushers will come forward this morning to receive our tithes and offerings. All right, let's pray this morning. God, we love you. We come to your house expecting you today, God. We come to your house believing you to do what you do, God, and that's to show up in a mighty way. And Lord, on our behalf, we're going to come forward with hearts of praise, with hearts of gratitude, God. Thanking you for what you've blessed us with, God, for our help for another day, God. For a chance to be a difference in people's life, God. For a chance to love our community, God. For a chance to reach children and adults alike, God. And Lord, we thank you for this offering today, God. And I pray that you would bless it, God, and build your kingdom, God. I pray you would bless us, Lord, and use us, God, and help us to make wise decisions, Lord, in this church, God, as we look to the future, God, where you want us to go, God, and the lives that you want us to reach. I pray that we would be eager, God, to hear your voice. And so today, God, open up our ears to hear what the Spirit would be saying, God. And open up our eyes to see people in need and to reach out and touch them, Lord. We pray today, God, in everything we do, we give you the honor and the glory. In your name I pray. Amen. Amen.
song we could ever sing. Worthy of all the praise we could ever bring. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. Of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, our Savior. I believe in God our Father. I believe in Christ the Son. I believe in the Holy Spirit. Our God is three in one. I believe in the resurrection, and we will rise again. For I believe in the name of Jesus. Our judge and our defender, suffered and crucified. Witness is in you. Descended into darkness, you rose in glorious light. Forever seated high. I believe in God our Father. I believe in Christ the Son. I believe in the Holy Spirit. Our God is three in one. I believe in the resurrection, that we will rise again. For I believe in the name of Jesus. That Jesus Christ is I believe in God our Father. I believe in Christ the Son. I believe in the Holy Spirit. Our God is three in one. I believe in the resurrection, that we will rise again. For I believe in the name of Jesus. I believe in God our Father. I believe in Christ the Son. I believe in the Holy Spirit. Our God is three in one. I believe in the resurrection, that we will rise again. For I believe in the name of Jesus. I believe in the name of Jesus. I believe in the name of Jesus.
Lord, we love you, and we thank you for this day, God, and we come here for you today, God. And I pray that in our time of worship that we gave you something that was worthy, God, that we gave you something that was worthy of heaven. And God, I pray in this time of word, God, you would give us something, God, that we can feast on. That you would give us something that would open our eyes, that would help us grow in you, and that we would become a little less like earth and a little more like heaven. We would start walking in the kingdom, in the way that the kingdom operates, and not in the way that the earth has called us, God. So I thank you for today, God. Open our eyes to what we would want us to see, and open our ears to what you would want us to pray. Amen. Would you give our worship team a hand? You know, I'm starting to realize that in Christianity, that we cannot look at Christianity and living for Christ as something that is always affiliated with the church. When people ask you about, well, are you a Christian? And the first thing you say is where you go to church. I think we may be missing the mark. I think that Jesus ought to happen whether this church shuts down, whether they tell us we can, whether they tell us that we can't. We ought to have something, a firm foundation, as Randy and them talking about, that we can fall upon, that even if I was in my closet and I had to hide it from the rest of my family, that I would feast on Jesus even more so than I can here. You know, and the other night I was thinking, and I was like, man, boldness in the kingdom of God would be so good. And I just felt immediately, friends, that said, if you want to be bold, do bold things. If you want to be bold, do bold things. Well, how do you do bold things? Well, you listen to the whispers of God. Because He's going to tell you the bold things in the whispers. He's going to tell you the obvious things in the shouts. And I found this too. You know, we say sometimes, oh, I'm waiting on the opportunity. I'm waiting on the opportunity. If it's something that we can do within our own power, it's something that we can do, then just consider it a green light. That it is a go. God is big enough to give you the red light. And if it's something that you can do within your own power, you ought to be doing it already. It should be waiting on God to do the things that you're fully capable of now. We wait on God to do the things that we're not capable of. When we say, oh, that's too big, I don't have the money to do that, I don't have the physical ability to do that, that's the things that we go, God, you're going to have to work. For instance, you know, when Moses leads him out of Pharaoh's kingdom and he goes up to the water and the water's blocking him. Okay, you're going to need God at that point. But if it was just, hey, go over here and talk to the people, he didn't really need God to do that. And so there's things that you got in your life right now that you could be doing, but you're not doing. And I'm just trying to awaken you to those things that you realize, hey, that's within my capability. Why don't I just go ahead and do those things? I don't need God to come down from heaven and sign a stamp and give it to me. To pray for my coworkers. To talk to other people about Jesus. I just need to quit being lazy. Today, you know, there are a lot of things in our life that come and go. Things that we were once good at, things that we're not good at anymore. There's things that, you know, relationships that prosper for a while and then they die. And what I'm understanding, and today I want to talk to you about, is there are dead places in your life, but God is the God of dead places as well. To understand why Jesus would even come to dead places, we must first understand what authority He had to speak to the dead situations in our life. We need to understand that. First thing I want you to see today is that death has no power over Jesus. It never has. You know, we like to look at, and we say that Jesus conquered death when He came out of the grave. Well, isn't that what we've always heard? That He conquered death when He came out of the grave. Yes, I believe that's true that He did deal death its final blow, but conquering it in His own body. But He had dominion over it before He ever went to the cross. He did. Death never had anything on it. And so this week I was thinking about that. I'm like, well, if Jesus didn't have to go to the cross and He didn't have to go through the grave because He had dominion over death before it ever happened, then why is that so? And when I was thinking about that, and when I was wondering about that, this verse came to mind. It said, for the wages of sin is what? Death. But the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. And then I thought, man, so what is it about the wages of sin is death? And then I thought, when did Adam and Eve begin to die? When they began to sin. When did they begin to die? When they began to sin. And then I thought, so how did Jesus have power over death? It's because He had power over sin. He had power over sin. And so I started thinking about this. He's always had dominion over it. So you say, but Jesus died on the cross. Explain that to me. He died on the cross. And then I thought, well, that's the moment that He took on our sin. So you got Jesus. How did He have power over death before the cross? It's because He knew no sin. Well, why did He die? It was because of our sin. And then I looked at that and I thought, and He said that no one can take His life from Him, but He willingly laid it down. And remember that it says that at the end of His life when He's on the cross that He gave up His spirit. It didn't say it was taken from Him. He decided to lay it down. Why? Because He wanted to conquer sin in His own body to prove to you that you could conquer it in your body. And so it was death, and He had very seriously. He mocked it constantly. Look here in Matthew chapter 9. When Jesus entered the synagogue leader's house and saw the noisy crowd and people playing pipes, he said, "Go away. The girl is not dead, but asleep." But they laughed at him. Jesus is mocking death there. He's like, "Oh, it's not dead. She's just asleep." And they made fun of him. And after the crowd had been put outside, he went and he took the girl by the hand and she got up. And news spread through all the nation and all the region of what had happened. Have you ever noticed that Jesus, he just rarely says it's something every night? He always says it's sleeping. Why? Because for man, death is final, but for God, it is temporal. It's temporal. He speaks to it, and it comes back to life. When in death, we can't awaken anything that's dead, but God can. So he always kind of mocked it. And Jesus, God speaks to death, like I said, and it awakens. And they mocked Jesus, and then Jesus stood up in their very presence, and he mocked death. Why? Because Jesus is not afraid of our dead situations. The things that we say, "Oh, that's dead in my life now. Oh, my relationship with my brother or my sister, oh, it's just dead. Oh, my relationship with my wife, it's just dead." Well, let me tell you, God is the God of dead situations. And you need to start believing that he's ready to resurrect them. The world may tell you, go ahead and have a funeral because your chances are hopeless. But Jesus walks up to death in this situation, and he stands the little girl back up on her feet. It's because dead situations have no power over him. Look here, John 14:6, Jesus answered, he said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life. And no one comes to me, or comes to the Father, except through me." So I'm looking at it and I say, how can death have any power over Jesus? Because he didn't just have life, he was life. So anytime he spoke to death, it came back to life because he was. And this morning what I want to show you, and you can start turning to John chapter 11 this morning. This morning I want to show you how Jesus, he wants to make your heart beat again. He wants to make it beat again. And how situations that you or someone else have said are dead, Jesus can make alive again. Because he doesn't just show up to difficult places. He shows up to dead places. He shows up to the dead places of our life. To the things that we think are hopeless. He brings hope. And so this morning we're going to look at that. Because he's not just the God over the difficult. He's the God over the dead. Look at me here. John chapter 11. Let's read this together this morning. Now a certain man was healed, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. It was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was now ill. So the sister sent him, saying, "Lord, he whom you love is ill." But when Jesus heard it, he said, "This illness does not lead to death. It is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it." Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister, and he loved Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. And then after this, he said to his disciples, "Let's go to Judea again." Let's go to Judea again. And the disciples said to him, "Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you, and you are going to go there again?" And Jesus answered, "Are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles because the light is not in him." And after saying this, he said to them, "Our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep." There he goes again, making fun of death. He's fallen asleep. But I go to awaken him. And the disciples, they didn't understand. So they said, "Lord, if he's fallen asleep, then he will recover." And now Jesus had spoken of his death, but they thought that he meant taking rest and sleep. And so Jesus had to make it plainly for us. Aren't you glad that he's a God who makes things plain? And he said, "Lazarus has died. And for your sake, I am glad that I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him." Let us go to him. And I want you to look at this next verse here. So Thomas, called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, "Let us also go, that we may die with him." Now this isn't the deepest part of my message today, but I do want to point out something to you about this verse before we go any further. This is the Thomas who makes this bold statement to the disciples. What is Thomas known for? That, man, that was quick. Everybody. So Thomas, one mark in his life is that he doubted Jesus had risen from the dead. And he said what? He said, unless I place my fingers in the nails in his hands, I won't believe. And that's the part that we remember about Thomas. Do you want everybody in life to remember you for one mistake? Do you want everybody in life to remember you for one thing that you did wrong? Isn't that how things start to die in our life? When we start believing the one mistake that we made is how we're defined. And now Thomas is remembered by one thing, but they forget about this verse here. Thomas boldly steps up and says, well, let us go where Jesus said, we'll die with him. But yet we don't remember this one. You see, it's easy for people to only want to remember our mistakes. But this was a moment they should remember for its character. So Thomas, he said, let us go also that we may die. And Thomas shouldn't be defined by one moment. And you got to think, when he was doubting, it was because his friend had died. His master had died. He was grieving. His heart was broken. He wanted clarity. So he claimed he would only believe if he could touch Jesus. But Thomas was so much bolder than his one mistake. And I'm here to tell you this morning that you're bolder than your mistake. God likes to go to the dead places. And when Thomas was dead, Jesus came in and gave him the confirmation that he did. And he wants to do the same thing to us this morning. Would you turn to John chapter 11 this morning? Continuing on, verse 17. Now when Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. So Lazarus has died. Isn't it interesting? Jesus said, I love Mary, and I love Martha, and I love Lazarus. But then the next line it says, but he waited 2 days before he came. With Lazarus, Jesus didn't wait on the situation to be unfavorable. He didn't wait on the situation to get grim. He waited on the situation to get hopeless. And sometimes we're praying and we're like, God, when are you going to show up? It's just getting as bad as it can get. And what I want to say is, he didn't wait until Lazarus was almost dead. He waited until Lazarus was completely dead. And maybe that God sometimes is not wanting to heal our sickness in life as much as he's wanting to come to the dead places of your life and bring them back. Letting them, and you say, oh, there's just no hope in this area. Oh, it's just hopeless. There's no way for me to go on any further. And what I'm realizing is Jesus didn't go to a place that had very little chance of getting better. He came to a place that had no chance of getting better. And we look around and we say, oh, that situation, it's just dead. Oh, that situation, it's just hopeless. Oh, there's no hope for them. They're just too far gone. And Jesus is saying, I love to go to dead places and tell them to come back to life. People think that they have no hope. They think that they have no solution. And Jesus is saying, I'll just wait till they die and I'll go bring them back to life. I think Abraham understood that when he carried Isaac up the hill to sacrifice him. I think he thought, even if I sacrifice him, God will bring him back. You've got to realize who has authority over death. And one of the greatest parts of this story is that Jesus waited until Lazarus was dead. How many of us enjoy waiting? Some of you will be mad before noon because it's taking too long to get you food today. You know, we don't enjoy waiting. You know, nobody wants to talk about waiting on God. Why? Because we want everything our way, right away. But Jesus didn't move when Mary asked him. Jesus moved when he was ready. Has your kids ever asked you for something that you wanted to give them, but you couldn't give them right then? Because if you gave it right then, it wasn't going to be good for them. And they couldn't see all the details surrounding what was going on in their life. All they could see is, I want this now. That's where Mary and Martha are at. They're like, fix it now, Jesus. And Jesus is saying, go hold on. I'll fix it in a way like you've never seen before. He waited. And what he did is, in his waiting, he demonstrated that he had the power over hopeless, helpless, lifeless situations. There's going to be times when you think that Jesus has to move when and how you want him to. And when he doesn't, move in the time and the way that you think that he should move, it's going to tempt you to think that he's not coming. It's going to tempt you to think that he doesn't care. And I'm trying to get you thinking this morning that just when he doesn't move the way you think he is, and just when he doesn't move in the time that you think he is, doesn't mean that he doesn't care. It doesn't mean that he's not moving. Martha and Mary were still very heartbroken. And so they questioned why Jesus had not shown up while Lazarus was sick. Look here. It says, so when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him, but Mary remained in the house. Well, why did Mary remain in the house? Most likely, this is an indication that she's upset with Jesus. She didn't come out to meet him. Why come out to meet him? Lazarus is already dead. She hadn't shown up. Jesus hadn't shown up, and now her brother's dead, and so she's in mourning. And I'll just be honest, she's mad. And she's sulking in her house. How many of us, God hasn't shown up in our situation, we have a tendency to start sulking and get mad. Oh God, but I prayed. Oh God, but I've asked. Oh God, but I've cried. And he's saying, I'm going to come, but I'm going to come on my time. And it's not out of him not loving you. It's out of him loving you more than you love yourself. Look here, let's move forward just a little bit further. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now, I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you. And Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. And Martha said, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection, in the last day. And Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. And whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? And she said to him, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world. Now, I want you to understand something here. Notice that the conversation at first glance appears like Martha is agreeing with Jesus. She says, oh, yeah. He says, you believe on the resurrection life? She says, oh, I believe in the Christ. But actually, she isn't. She isn't agreeing with Jesus. Why? Look a little closer here. Let's see. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. And Martha says this, I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day. That's not the same thing. He says he's going to rise again. She says, oh, I understand that he'll rise on the last day. He says, I'm the resurrection and the life. And she says, I know that you're the Christ. That's not the same thing. But yet it looks like she's going around and she's agreeing. But what she's really doing is she is redefining what Jesus says to her to fit her situation. Because she's never seen anyone come from the grave. So what does she do? She does what a lot of us do. She rationalizes away the belief that Jesus could do that because her faith is diminished. Haven't we ever done that before? It's like, oh God, I know you're going to answer, but you may not heal him. Oh God, I know you're going to do that, but you may not do it this way. Because we try to bring what Jesus is willing to do to what our faith is willing to believe. So that we can rationalize when it doesn't happen, and so we're not disappointed. And so he says, she's going to rise again. And she says, oh, I know she'll rise again at, the resurrection. See, as much as she loved him, as much as she had believed and watched him do miracles, she was struggling with the fact that her brother's situation was dead. Sure, Jesus could heal the sick, but death was definitive. And death was the end. And that's all she could know. Sure, Jesus, I've seen you heal sick people. But I've never seen anyone bring dead people to life. Sure, Jesus, I've seen you meet it that way before. But I've never seen you do it the way that I need to happen. And so her faith was diminished. And so she tried to bring things down. Look here, come a little further. And Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection, the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet he lives. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? And she says, yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world. And I don't believe Martha even answered Jesus' question. Jesus says, I'm the resurrection and the life. Do you believe this, Martha? And Martha says, yes, I believe. But in other words, she says, I believe you're God, but I don't know if I believe you're the God of my situation. Haven't you ever been there? When your situation was tougher than you thought Jesus would answer? Where it was bigger than what you thought it was, and everybody else told you it was dead. As waste of your time. And in your heart, you were like, I feel like you're the resurrection and the life. But in my mind, I'm going, yes, he'll resurrect one day. I'll see him in heaven. And in other words, it's, I believe you're God, but I don't know if you're God in my situation. And I wish Jesus sort of just stopped her and said, Martha, I didn't ask you if you believe I'm Christ. I asked you if you believed I'm the resurrection and the life. And I wonder what God would be asking us this morning. A lot of people want to claim to have great faith that God is who he says he is until their circumstances test what they claim to believe. Oh, he's the healer, and then you're sick. And you're like, give me some medicine, give me this, give me that, give me this, because I got to try to fix it on my own. And you're like, have you ever prayed about your situation? You're like, no, but I went to the doctor. I remember there's a verse in the Old Testament, and there's a king who's sick. And it says he was sick, and he consulted all the doctors, and he consulted all the physicians, and he consulted everyone. But he died because he never asked God to heal him. He died because he never asked God. See, he thought his situation was greater than God's power to overcome the situation. And a lot of people want to claim they have this great faith until what they claim is tested. Sure, he's God. He's the living Christ. But my brother is dead in the grave, and he's been there for 4 days. And my situation is hopeless, and you're late, Jesus. See, it's not just a situation that's a little bit dead. It's 4 days dead. In a hot tomb. The outcome's not good. If you would be a little bit humorous, the situation stinks. Literally. He's been in that tomb for 4 days. And haven't you been there where you're like, I know you're Christ, the living God, but I can't see any possible solution that you can give that can turn my situation for good. I've been there before where I rationalize it out in my mind. And I say, I know the situation is bad. It's so bad. And no matter what God does, I don't know how we can get any better. And Mary, so Martha's mad. She meets him in the yard. But Mary is so mad she doesn't even come to the yard. Look at this. When she had said this, she went and called her sister Mary, saying in private, the teacher is here and is calling for you. And she brought her over to the side of the room to tell her. And when she heard it, she rose quickly and went to him. And now Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha had met him. And when the Jews who were with her in the house consoling her saw Mary rise quickly and go out, they followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to weep there. Now when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet, saying, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. You realize that people always complain when they can't control it. Mary and Martha had no control over this situation. So both of them have complained the same thing. They put the blame on Jesus and said, if you'd just come when I wanted you to, if you'd just done it in the way that I thought was best, then it would have all worked out for our good. But now he's been dead 4 days. What now, Jesus? Hadn't you ever been there? Were you backed into the corner? What now, Jesus? Lord, why didn't you do it when I wanted you to do it? Why didn't you give me what I asked for? Or what about me, Lord? Where's mine? Just to turn around with the next breath and say, why me, God? Why does it always happen to me? We always have these questions. And look here, we go a little further. So when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in his spirit and greatly troubled. And he said, where have you laid him? And they said, Lord, come and see. And then the shortest verse, Jesus wept. And so the Jews said, see how he loved him? But some of them said, could not he open the eyes of the blind and also kept this man from dying? See, people are still blaming Jesus. How messed up is that? It's your fault, Jesus. Couldn't you have just come just a little sooner? If you sin and raise the sick, why is it so hard to see and raise the dead? But yet we have grades of levels that we believe Jesus for. Oh, he can do this. But he ain't never going to do this. Oh, he can heal bronchitis. But stage 4 lung cancer, no, he's probably not going to do that. They're probably going. Why do we do that? They're doing it here, though. Oh, if you'd have come just the day before, Lord, if you'd have just come the day before he died, you would have spoke to him and he'd have been healed instantly. But now he's dead. It's hopeless, Jesus. And have you ever had people look into your life and they spoke something in your life and they just said, you're never going to amount to nothing. And at that moment, there was a piece of you that died. And you realized that part of your situation was hopeless. And you lived like it was hopeless. And Mary and Martha are there at this moment. At a time, we are tempted to think in our moments of pain that Jesus doesn't care. And look, though Jesus knows he's about to raise Lazarus from the dead, when he weeps here, I don't believe he's weeping over the death of Lazarus. I believe he's weeping over the pain of Mary and Martha. Because why? We serve a God who weeps alongside of our pain. He's about to raise him from the dead. He's not weeping over Lazarus. Even if Lazarus is dead, he's not weeping over Lazarus. He's weeping because Mary and Martha are hurting. And they're hurling insults at him. If you'd have just came, Jesus, if you'd have just done it our way, Jesus, and he did like us, we're blaming Jesus all the time. Jesus, if you'd have just done this, if you'd have just done this in my life, my parents would have been better, if my situation was better, if I had more money, if I had more fame, if I had more stuff, if I was just a little bit smarter, if I was a little bit better looking, then I could have all these things. And we're always blaming. And then Jesus is getting down in the dirt and he's weeping with them. Over their frailty, not his. Over their inability, not his. He sits high above it with the solution already in hand, but he chooses to feel it because he loves you. They're hurting, and they can't see the solution through their situation. And Martha wanted Jesus just to work within the bounds of what she believed to be possible. Heal him when he's sick, Jesus. Do it the way that I understand, Jesus. Do it the way that I've seen you do it before. But when she wanted him to work within the ability of what she thought was possible, he wanted her to take on a new way of thinking, of him working in the ability of what she deemed impossible. What does that say for you this morning? It says this. It says that God is not done just when man tells you that he's done. Some of you have had cancer. Some of you have been given little hope for survival. Some of you may have been given no hope for survival. Some of you have had situations where maybe you were trying to have children and they told you you couldn't have children, and then you did. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law were that way. They were told they couldn't, and then they had two. You know, and then it's like, oh, you'll probably never have children, and they do. And you know, it's things that man says. Just because man deems it impossible doesn't mean that it's impossible for God. Amen. Why? Because Jesus walks into dead situations. Martha wanted Jesus to work within her bounds, but Jesus wanted to break those bounds. The very situations in your life right now that you're hurt over, maybe even angry with God over because he hasn't shown up when you thought he would, are the very same situations that God wants to use to elevate your faith to higher levels. He wants to use those situations, those moments of brokenness. He took Lazarus' death and created a faith inside of Mary and Martha that went from here to here, because they used to believe that he was just the God over sickness. Now they believe he's the God over death. But yet it took 4 days of pain for them to understand that. So we don't need to underestimate our pain, because our pain is creating purpose. Martha wanted healing for Lazarus' sickness, but Jesus wanted to bring Lazarus out of the grave. Martha wanted a solution she could understand, but Jesus created in Martha a new level of understanding. And that's what he does. When we don't understand why we have to go through what we have to go through, it's that he is creating in us, through our situations, through our circumstances. It is a sandpaper lifestyle. It rubs us raw at first, but in the end we end up with a fine edge. Jesus brings purpose through pain, and he loved Mary and Martha enough to wait. And we can't understand that kind of love because it's higher than what we are. But what it really is Jesus stretching us past the bounds of what we think and what we deem as possible. Look here, Revelation 22:14. It says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. And I got to thinking on this, and I heard somebody else teaching on it this week. If God is the God of the beginning, and if he is the beginning of the end, then time has no control over him. Amen? And if he's the God of the beginning, that means he's the God of the beginning of your situation. And if he's the God of the end of your situation, then that means that everything in between that time is under his authority as well. Amen. So you don't know what you're going to have to face, but what you know is that in the end, it's already taken care of. He's the God of the end of your situation. and everything that happens in the middle is under his authority and lordship. And what I love about Jesus is although Mary and Martha are upset and they're casting blame, he is God enough to see through their response, speak to their pain, and then respond to their problem. That's the kind of God we serve. Jesus tells Martha, he says, I'm the resurrection and the life. And when you're the resurrection and the life, you're not bound by death or time restrictions. God doesn't have to move within any bounds that we create. And you know what's interesting for Lazarus is Lazarus couldn't go and get his healing. Why? Because he was dead, right? He couldn't go get it. Have you ever been so lost in your situation that you didn't even know which way to go for help? And when Lazarus couldn't go and get the help that he needed, when he couldn't and go and get life that he needed, life came to him. Life came to his tomb. It came right where he was at. And it speaks to our situation too, because when we're dead in our situation, God can show up on the scene. When we've given up hope, when everybody said it's hopeless, Lazarus has been dead for 4 days. The situation had no hope. The situation had no life. And the situation was dead. And everyone had already had a funeral for it when Jesus showed up. I don't think it gets any more final than that. When everybody's already had the funeral for it. But there was a moment in a dark and silent, damp tomb that the heart of Lazarus began to beat. Just imagine, it's silent in a tomb. A body's been dead for 4 days. It's a pretty gruesome sight. The body is broken down. And then all of a sudden you hear something that was dead comes back to life. It's the sound of hope again. The heart begins to pump. Blood begins to flow back through the body. And look here, this is what I want to show you this morning. Then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it. And then Jesus said, take away the stone. And Martha, the sister of the dead, said to him, Lord, by this time there will be an odor, for he has been dead 4 days. Even still, her faith is not enough to bring Lazarus out of that tomb. She's still saying, oh, he's still dead. It's still hopeless. He's going to smell, Jesus. Do you know what you're doing, Jesus? All the way up to the time that he's about to provide the solution, she's still asking questions. And Jesus said to her, did I not tell you that if you believe, you would see the glory of God? See, Jesus isn't playing games. And so they took away the stone, and Jesus lifted up his eyes, and he said, Father, I thank you that you've heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me. And when he had said to this things, he cried with a loud voice, Lazarus, come out. And at that moment, the man who had died came out. And his hands and his feet bound with linen strips, and his face wrapped in a cloth. And Jesus said to them, unbind him and let him go. And let me tell you, the next time that you see Lazarus, he's leaning back at the table eating with Jesus. Why? Because Jesus brings us out of our dead places into fellowship with him. And we go from mourning to feasting when we put our hope and our trust in him. In no situation, no matter how difficult, no matter what anybody's spoken over you, no matter what's been said against you, is so dead that he can't bring hope out of hopeless situations. And I heard someone say this week. They said the reason that Jesus probably called out Lazarus by name, because if he hadn't, then all the graves would have burst forth and everyone would have came out. He has authority over death. He speaks to dead situations, and things that seem completely hopeless and completely lost begin to live again. There is no restriction on him. And I don't know about if every grave would have truly broke open or not. But I knew when Lazarus couldn't come to life, life came to him. Because that's the kind of God we serve. And your situation this morning is not too far gone. And your hope's not all lost. And you may even say, I'm dead inside. But he's a God who shows up in dead places. Randy, as you come this morning, you may not feel this morning like you can come to him. You may say, this situation is bigger than what everybody tells me. And the very reason that you're here this morning is because when you couldn't come to life, life is coming to you. That's why you're here this morning. I don't think it's any just happenstance morning we have probably more people here I've had than probably in the last 3 or 4 months. It's because God wants you to know that your situation right now, although you can't see the solution, He's already on His way. You may be on day 3, and tomorrow is day 4. You may be on day 1, thinking that, oh, He's not coming. It's over. It's final. And God's saying, wait a second. I'm fixing to come and break the grave open. And God didn't just do it through, Jesus didn't just do it through His walk on earth through Lazarus. And there's other examples where Jesus did it. But Jesus decided to do it through His own body. Proving that, you know what, not only do I have authority over death when it's in somebody else, but I have authority over death when it's in me. Let's stand together this morning. Your situation is not hopeless. You may look at it, you may say, oh, it's gone. It may be your job. You may know that it's just a matter of time before your job plays out. It may be your children. You say, oh, it's just hopeless. They're never going to come back to the Lord. I keep praying and nothing's happening. And I'm going, just wait another day. You may say, oh, it's my marriage. Or you may say, oh, it's my family and the whole family. We just can't get along. And I haven't had contact with my father or my mother in years. And everybody tells me that there's just no hope for us, that we're never going to get along. We're never going to do this. And God says, I'm the God of finality because I'm the beginning and the end. And unless I speak it, then there's always hope. We can't be defined by what man says. We're defined by what God says. And so I lean on His word. And if He says, Lazarus, come forth from the grave, then I believe that He's going to bring some more out of the grave. Amen? As we pray this morning, if you've never given your life to Jesus, why isn't it? It's not an accident that you're here this morning. Maybe God has put you here to begin the greatest thing that He's ever wanted to do through you. We don't know. I know this. I know that my life is multiplied by having Him in it. I know that I live better than many because of the grace of God upon my life. And even in my most difficult times, I have a hope to lean on. And I lean on His word, and I find solutions. And I lean on His heart, and He loves me through difficulty. And I always seem to rise to the occasion because God rises up in me. It's nothing that I've done, but everything that He done. It's nothing that I'm worthy to do. It's everything that He's worthy of. So if you haven't ever given your heart and life to Jesus, today is your day, and I would love to pray with you. Or maybe it's this. Maybe you've got a situation in your life right now, and it seems completely hopeless, completely lost, and it's as dark as that tomb that Lazarus lays in, and God's saying, hey, wait, I'm coming. I'm loving you enough to let you wait on me. Because I'm fixing to bust open. Don't give up on your health. Don't give up on your family. Don't give up on your story. Because God's still right here this morning. As they sing, would you be open? Would you be honest with the Lord? And would you lay out before Him this morning on this altar, and He'll meet you here.
Christ is my reward and all my devotion. Now there's nothing in this world that could ever satisfy. Through every trial, my soul will sing, no turning back. I've been set free. Christ is enough for me. Christ is enough for me. Everything I need is in you. Everything I need. Christ, my all in all. The joy of my salvation. And this hope will never fail. Heaven is our home. Through every storm, my soul will sing. Jesus is here. God be the glory. Christ is enough for me. Christ is enough for
Is there anybody this morning that says, I'm in a situation where my faith is just really tested and where I want what God has for me, but it's hard to wait. And I need some people to gather around me to agree with me this morning for what God wants to do. Is there anybody here this morning that says, Pastor, that's me. I got something in my life that's heavy right now, and I need to believe God for it. If that's you this morning, would you raise your hand? You raise your hand. There's somebody out there. Yeah, I see it. If that's you and you want us to pray for you this morning, I'd like to gather some people around you. I'd like to pray for your situation. I'd like to call it out by name, and I would like to ask God to move. Also this morning, is there anybody here that says, you know, I've never given my heart to the Lord, and I believe there's no mistake that I'm here today. And I want to try this. I want to give my life to Him, and I want to submit to His authority. And I want to just see what God will do, because I believe that I'm lost. And what I've been doing is not working. Is there anybody like that this morning? You say, I'm ready to take that step of faith. I believe that God will meet you here this morning. Is there anybody this morning? If there is, would you lift your hand this morning? I want to pray for you. Okay. And we're going to pray for a few more minutes. You can be seated where you're at. Like somebody like to gather around this morning. Before they would gather around friends here, elders. Savior's life group tonight. But we're going to close in prayer, and the way I want to close in prayer today is I want to pray for the youth leaders. So if they'll come up, I want to pray for them as we close out today and as they go out on this trip. But also remember Julie Ramsey. She lost her grandmother Friday, I believe it was, or yesterday. And you can be praying for that family as well. So youth leaders, come up here. When we get done praying for them, then you'll be dismissed this morning. Everybody stand together. Let's stand. Let's just be in agreement for them and for the trip that they're going to have and for the lives that they're going to change and the relationships that are going to build. So gather around them. Yeah. Yeah, just put your hand on this morning, yeah. Lord God, we lift you up. We praise you. We thank you today, God. Lord, move on our youth this week, God. Help it to be powerful, God, what you want to do, God. Speak life into them, God, and raise up more men and women of God, Lord, through them, Lord, as they spend their week, God, ministering to the youth, God. I pray that they would come back with just testimonies. I just pray as we stand here even next Sunday, there'll be great testimonies of what you've done. I remember, Lord, this time and time again, your confirmation as I was in youth camp growing up of what you wanted me to do and how you wanted me to do it, God. So I pray you would just fall on these youth leaders, God. They would have a great time. Their traveling would be easy. They would be blessed. And the Holy Spirit would show up and rain down. It would give them the words to say. It would show them things to do. And their hearts would be open and they would listen, God. So I thank you for this today. Bless them, God. Use them to do great and mighty, awesome things. In your name I pray. Amen. And you can be dismissed.